Hi everyone, it's Peter Schiff. It is Monday, May 23rd, 2011, and I wanted to do a video blog today as a follow-up to the one I did on Friday entitled Beware the NIA Penny Stock Pump and Dump. So if you didn't watch Friday's blog, make sure and watch it after you watch this one so that you can appreciate this blog in its proper context. Anyway, over the weekend, the National Inflation Association reacted to my allegations. And I'm not saying they responded because they really weren't very responsive at all. You know, there's an old saying that if you give somebody enough rope, they'll hang themselves. Well, I barely gave them any rope at all, but they did a pretty good job of hanging themselves in the process. Based on their reaction, I'm more convinced than ever that my allegations are accurate. Now, how did they react? Well, one thing they did, which is typical of somebody who's guilty of an accusation, is instead of dealing with what I said, they attacked me. They tried to make me the issue. They tried to impugn my integrity. They tried to imply a false motivation. They tried to give me create a reason why I would have it out to get NIA, that I have an axe to grind, and so therefore I'm not biased. What did they write about me? Quote, I'm going to read this. There is a certain well-known traditional old-fashioned stockbroker, that's how they referred to me in their reaction, they didn't name me, who has recently been losing a lot of business and believes the NIA is partially responsible for his brokerage firm's decline. Unfortunately, his brokerage firm will most likely no longer exist in a few years, and it has nothing to do with the success of NIA. Now, there are several fraudulent statements there, said as if they were fact. First of all, my firm is not failing. I am not losing business. I am not losing customers. In fact, it's the opposite. I have more customers, more assets, more revenues, more profits than ever before. In fact, in the last year, I've added 4 brand new businesses. I used to be just Euro Pacific Capital, a brokerage firm. I now have Euro Pacific Asset Management. I've got Euro Pacific Canada. I've got Euro Pacific Precious Metals. I've got Euro Pacific International. Business has never been better. So that's the first lie. The second lie is that I blame NIA for my business decline. Well, first of all, my business isn't declining, so there is no one to blame, least of all NIA. And the reality of it is, NIA is probably responsible for additional clients. I believe that they are spreading my message, a good message, and I think the fact that they're out there bringing this message to a broader audience probably means that I've picked up some extra business. So I am not suffering because of NIA. The truth is, other people are. And I'm acting because I want to protect the innocent victims of these scams. Now, how else did they react other than attacking me? What did they do? Well, they created a straw man. And a straw man is when, if I have an argument that they can't deal with, they create another argument that I didn't make, and they attack that one, and that's how they defend themselves. And that's what they did. Listen to what they wrote. I'm going to read this again. NIA would like to take the opportunity to make it perfectly clear that neither our organization, anybody who works for our organization, or anybody affiliated with our organization was a shareholder owns a single share of Mega Precious Metals, or has ever owned a single share of Mega Precious Metals. We are shocked that this traditional old-fashioned stockbroker, who we used to have so much respect for, would outright lie and say that NIA pumped and dumped the stock without presenting a shred of evidence. It is impossible for someone to pump and dump a stock if they never bought or sold it. Now, first of all, I never accused them of this. I never said that NIA owned the shares or sold the shares. No. I specifically said that I believed that they were paid by a third party. See, the pumper and the dumper don't have to be the same person. I believe that NIA pumped the stock so that a third party can dump their shares, and that third party paid NIA to pump up the shares so that they can sell. And the most incriminating part of their reaction is not once did they address this allegation. That was the heart of my allegation, that this was a pump and dump in disguise, that they were paid and didn't disclose that conflict of interest. And they didn't even bring it up. In fact, I knew that they didn't own any stock. They said that in the pump and dump piece. In the original email, they disclosed, they said that NIA does not own any shares of Mega Precious Metals. And I even thought that was a fraudulent disclosure because I think there was a nefarious purpose to that point. They were trying to create the false impression among their members that there was no conflict of interest. After all, NIA didn't own the stock, and so we didn't benefit from this recommendation. But what they didn't state is that they were paid, and that's how they benefited. And what they didn't state was that their client, whoever paid them, had a vested interest because they were looking to sell the stock, and they needed NIA to find the buyers, which also explains the way they wrote the piece, the language that they chose. Now, they later on addressed the particular the piece by saying, and I quote, yes, some of NIA's stock suggestions, like mega precious metals, are risky and speculative. NIA made it very clear that mega precious metals gold resource space is an inferred resource and not a proven resource. Well, that's a lie. NIA did not make it clear that they didn't have any proven resources. In fact, they deliberately wrote that email blast to create the false impression that they had resources. Yes, they did use the word inferred. They only used it once, and they used it knowing that their members would have no idea what it means. Nowhere in that email blast did they describe the difference between an inferred resource and a proven resource. They didn't even bring it up because they didn't want their members to figure it out. In fact, they only used the word inferred once. The other times that they referred to their gold resources, they just said they're gold resources. And proof that they wanted to confuse their members about what inferred meant is the way they chose to value mega precious metal stock. Remember, they took the number of shares outstanding, subtracted the cash, and then they took that and they divided the shares by the 1.2 million ounces that they claimed Mega had, and that's how they came up with a valuation. They said that the market is valuing their gold resource at only $14 a share. Well, they don't have any gold resources. They might. They have inferred resources, but that is why the market is putting a discount on those resources, because no one knows if they actually exist. But they did not point this distinction out. And the reason was because they didn't want people finding out. In this email of this reaction, they admit, they say that Mega is risky and speculative, right? But why didn't they say that in their initial letter touting the stock? Why didn't they say this is a risky and speculative stock? Because they were afraid that if people read that, they wouldn't buy it. The whole point of this email was not to make an investment recommendation or a suggestion. They didn't want to say, hey, here is a very speculative exploration company. This is not the type of stock you would buy if you're just looking to protect yourself from inflation or a weak dollar. But if you really want to take a flyer and maybe hit a home run, here's a stock you can buy, but of course be careful because you might lose it all. That would have been the language that they would have used if they were legitimately trying to point out an investment opportunity. The fact of the matter is they didn't want that. They wanted to maximize the number of people who would react to their email blast by buying the stock. They didn't want people to think the stock was too risky for them. They wanted to buy it anyway. I mean, a way to look at it would be like a lottery ticket, right? This stock is like a lottery ticket. Let's say there's a lottery where, there's $100 million is the jackpot, and you got a $2 ticket. Now, is that $2 ticket worth $100 million? I mean, it could be, because it could be the winning ticket. But to try to say it's worth $100 million today because it potentially might hit the jackpot, you can't do that. They were valuing mega precious metals as if all 1.2 million of their inferred ounces were going to be proven to actually exist. Now, is it possible that they could hit the lottery, that they actually have all that gold? Sure, it's possible, but it's not probable. And whatever the valuation you're going to put on that stock, you can't value it as if they've already hit the lottery. They haven't even done the drawing yet. This whole thing was designed so that people wouldn't know how risky it was. They wouldn't know how speculative it was. Now, another way that they reacted to my allegations was by showing all of the other recommendations they had made in the past to show their track record. But hey, we have this great track record, so why are you saying this? Well, of course, the other stocks that they're pointing to are not the penny stocks they were pumping and dumping. These were legitimate senior mining companies that nobody paid them to promote. And I think the only reason that NIA recommends these stocks is to lay the foundation for a future pump and dump. because they know that their members will not know the difference between these legitimate stocks and the stocks that they're being paid to promote. And also, of course, all these recommendations, they started in late 2009 or later. Gold stocks were down by about 70% in 2008. They all got crushed. So any decent gold company or silver company that anybody recommended in 2009 or even 2010 has gone way up. Right? So it's nothing spectacular that their other legitimate gold picks have recovered dramatically from the collapse that the whole sector had in 2008. But they're trying to use this to somehow validate their stock picking skills and to get people to believe that, well, they picked these other great stocks, and so I'll go buy a mega precious metals because after all, they hit it right on these, maybe they're right on mega. They don't understand the difference. Their members don't understand that this is the stock that they were paid to promote. And that is an allegation that they never bothered to address at all in their response. Now, what else did they do? Well, they sent me an email where they basically threatened me. Here's what NIA emailed me. This is from their president, Gerald Adams, who works closely with Jonathan Levitt. Here's what he wrote to me. Thank you for the favor. Thank you, Mr. Schiff, for providing us the motivation to do a video on you. We are now in the process of writing a script for our next documentary exposing you. Exposing me? Exposing me for what? I got nothing to hide. There's nothing to expose. And again, the motivation, they said earlier that they used to have great respect for me. Well, if they have all this damning evidence about me that they're going to expose me, then why did they have great respect for me? And if they had great respect for me, why didn't they just call me or email me after I mentioned this on my radio show? If I was wrong about my suspicions of the pump and dump, they could have called me up. I'm not hard to find. They could have said, hey, Peter, you got this all wrong. And they could have proven to me very easily that this wasn't a pump and dump. They made no attempt to do that. Another thing that they could have done was they could have sent me a letter from a lawyer. They could have emailed me a cease and desist. They could have demanded that I post a retraction. They could have said, these are false charges. You have no proof. They didn't do that either. Instead, what do? They tell lies about me, and they threaten to, quote unquote, expose me by doing a fraudulent video. What is it going to expose? That my clients lost money in 2008? Everybody knows that. The fact is, they endorsed me when I ran for Senate in 2010. They donated to my campaign. They knew about the fact that we had a bad year in 2008 back then. So, if I was a fraud then, why were they endorsing me? Why did they have all this respect for me? The fact of the matter is, all they're trying to do is vilify me, criticize me to try to take the spotlight off them. They don't want to disprove what I'm saying. They just want to say, oh, Peter Schiff, his firm is going out of business. He's got no more clients. He's wiped out. He's lost all his money, and he blames NIA. So don't listen to anything that he's saying instead of defending the actual allegations themselves. Actually, to add insult to injury, how I mentioned in the other video blog that they parrot back a lot of the things that I say that they plagiarize. And of course, they sent out an email blast on Sunday night with several things that I had said. One quote in particular I'll go over. They said, quote, by the government claiming it will default on its debts to foreigners if they aren't able to borrow more and get more deeply into debt, the government is admitting to running a Ponzi scheme. Now, as far as I know, I'm the only person that has made that particular observation and that particular comparison to the debt limit extension. I've made it several times. I've made it on CNBC. I've made it on Fox. I've done it on my video blog. And yet, I see it in my email blast box from NIA. Anyway, look, hey, my offer still stands to these guys. If they want to contact me and show me that they didn't do the pump and dump, hey, I'm always willing to admit if I'm wrong. But I don't think so. I think I got them dead on this one. And I think the way they reacted to my video blog, instead of disproving it, all it does is validate my assumptions and prove conclusively that they're doing a pump and dump. And the real problem is when these guys are held accountable by the law, it's not just them that's going to go down, but they're going to discredit all of the good things that they're saying and doing. And that's a real shame. And shame on you, National Inflation Association, for what you're doing. Take care, everybody. Bye.